On March 26, 1885, a group of Métis men traveling with Gabriel Dumont were on their way to Duck Lake when they met the police. An argument arose and a shot was fired. Gabriel was wounded in the head. His brother Isidore Dumont, Auguste Laframboise, Joseph and Jean-Baptiste Monteur were all killed. This was the beginning of the resistance for the Métis that would rage on for several more weeks. A year earlier, a plea was made to Louis Riel to come back to Canada to assist the Métis in Métis, Saskatchewan, to negotiate their grievances to Ottawa. Louis Riel had been living in the United States in exile since the Troubles at Manitoba. His 5-year term of exile was completed, and he could legally come back to Canada. Louis David Riel, born 22nd of October 1844, was a Canadian politician, founder of the province of Manitoba, and political leader of the Métis people. Riel fought to preserve Métis rights and culture. He was elected to the House of Commons 3 times, though he never assumed the seat because he was in exile in the United States. The situation in Saskatchewan was deplorable. The Indians were starving, as well as the Métis, and the white settlers were also being ignored by the government in Ottawa. Communications did not go well. Louis Riel's letters of pleas were swept away, and instead Sir John A. Macdonald sent troops from the east to squash the Métis uprising. On April 24th at Fish Creek, a battle between the Métis and Redcoats and Eastern soldiers killed Michael Boyer, Michel Desjardins, Pierre Peranto, and Joseph Vermette. On May 12, 1885, the last shots echoed throughout the Saskatchewan Valley as Métis soldiers lay wounded and dying on the battlefield. On that day, the fallen Métis were André Batoche Letendre, John Swain, Donald Ross, Damas Carrier, Isidore Boyer, Michel Trottier, Calix Turand, Elzire Turand, and Joseph Vandal. All 9 men were buried in a mass grave. 93-year-old Joseph Ouellette and Ambrose Jobin died from their wounds a few days later. Both men were buried next to each other. Louis Riel gave himself up to Middleton's army. He was brought to trial under the charge of high treason. The sentence was death by hanging. After 2 stays of execution, on November 16, 1885, Louis Riel bravely climbed the scaffold. Father Andre walked with a condemned man, and Father trembled when they reached the top. Louis told him to be brave. November 19, 1885, a mass service was held at St. Mary's in Regina, Saskatchewan. The frozen body was buried under the vault at Immaculate Conception Cathedral. On a night when a blizzard kept people indoors, Mr. Riel's body was put into a CPR boxcar for the long journey to St. Vital, Manitoba. Sitting in the boxcar, protecting the body, was Paul Bonneau with a rifle on his lap. The body was taken to his mother's house where it lay in state for 2 days. More than 500 armed Métis attended the funeral service on December 12, 1885, following the pallbearers who carried the casket on their shoulders for 6 miles. The casket was of magnificent rosewood that was purchased by the Métis.
I remember how the wind blew when the cathedral doors opened. The pallbearers who had beards had white ones. They were coated with hoarfrost and snow.
Mr. Talifer Levesque stated that he was 13 years old and an altar boy at St. Boniface Cathedral at Mr. Riel's funeral.
When the service was held, it was a sad day for everyone. Yes, I saw people cry. I saw men cry.
Burial did not follow immediately. There was great fear that the body would be snatched. The great love the Métis showed for their leader that day is remembered by their descendants and Métis today, who will always remember Louis Riel as the father of Manitoba and their defender of Métis rights.